So let's see how you did with number 2. Remember that we want to eliminate the y terms. So let's rewrite our equation underneath. So remember, I want to get, I know the common multiple between the 7 and the 5 is 35, so I want to get my top coefficient of y to be positive 35, then my bottom coefficient of y to be negative 35, or vice versa. Either way is actually correct. So I'm going to multiply the top equation by 5 because I know I want to get that to be positive 35. Then I'll multiply the bottom equation by negative 7 because I know I want to get this coefficient to be negative 35. And so when I work it out, remember I have to distribute to the entire equation. So my top equation becomes negative 15x plus 35y equals negative 80. And then my bottom equation becomes 63x minus 35y equals negative 112. Remember, it's elimination with addition, so I add. Then I know that negative 15x plus 63x is positive 48x. My 35s will cancel out, so I've eliminated my y value, my y variable. Negative 80 plus negative 112 gives me negative 192. And just a reminder for this, I just add my values and then keep the negative, because a negative plus a negative will always give me a negative. So back to my problem, I divide by my coefficient, so I get x equals negative 4. And then I have to get my y value, so I'm going to choose to use the top equation. Wherever I see an x, I'll plug in my negative 4. I know that negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. So 12 plus 7y equals negative 16. So I subtract 12 from both sides. I get 7y equals negative 28. Divide both sides by 7. I get y equals negative 4. So my solution for number 2 is negative 4, negative 4. So here are your last 2 practice problems where for these 2 problems you have to eliminate x first. So do these in your notebook, then jump back to the video and we'll go over the answer and the steps. So let's see how you did with number 3. Remember, we want to focus on eliminating the x's first. So I have 6x and 6x. One common mistake that students make is that they see that the coefficients are the same, so then they automatically think that it cancels out, but that's incorrect, because if we actually add these, 6x plus 6x is actually 12x, so that it doesn't really cancel out. So remember, one coefficient has to be positive, the other has to be negative. So again, I want to focus on my x's, and then I'm going to rewrite it underneath. And then if I look at my problem, I see that these are already both 6's. So that means I want to keep one positive and make the other one negative. So I'm just going to choose to make the bottom one negative. You could also make the top one negative, and by one I mean make the coefficient negative. So something times 6 will give me the positive 6. So I know that it's negative 1 times 6 will give me that positive 6. I'm sorry, not the positive 6. I want to make this one eventually a negative 6. So negative 1 times that 6 will make the coefficient that negative 6. And I don't have to do anything to my top equation because remember, I want to get these to eventually cancel out. So I'm going to go ahead and keep my top equation, so keep my 6x plus 5y equals 4. Then for my bottom equation, I'm going to distribute that negative 1 to the entire equation. And just to clarify, because I think I was a little confusing when I was explaining because I'm kind of tired, so in order to make these cancel out, I want to keep my top one positive and make my bottom coefficient negative. So to make this a negative 6, I'm just going to multiply the entire equation by negative 1, because negative 1 times the 6 will give me that negative 6. Okay, so then back to distributing. Negative 1 times this positive 6x will give me that negative 6x. Negative 1 times this negative 7y will give me a positive 7y. Keep my equal sign. Negative 1 times negative 20 will give me a positive 20. And then so remember I'm going to add, and so these cancel out. 5y plus 7y is 12y. 4 plus 20 is 24. Oops, forgot my equal sign. Then divide both sides by 12. I get y equals 2. So then now I have to solve for x. So I'm just going to use my top equation, 6x plus 5y equals 4. Wherever I see a y, I'm going to plug in my 2. So I have 6x plus 10 equals 4. Subtract 10 from both sides. I get 6x equals negative 6. Divide both sides by 6. I get x equals negative 1. So okay, so let's see how you did for number 4, the final one. Remember we wanted to eliminate x first, so I'm just going to focus on my x terms. The common multiple between 7 and 8 I know is 56, so let me rewrite the system underneath. So since I know the common multiple is 56, I want to make one of my coefficients, say my top one, to be positive 56x, and then my bottom coefficient for the x term to be negative 56x. So in order to make my coefficient for my x term to be positive 56, for my top equation, I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 8. And then to get the coefficient for x in my bottom equation to be negative 56, I'm going to multiply the entire bottom equation by negative 7. And then remember I'm going to distribute to the entire equation. So when I work it out, I know for my top equation, 8 times 7x is 56x. 8 times 2y is 16y. And then 8 times 24 is 192. And then for my bottom equation, negative 7 times 8x is negative 56x. Negative 7 times 2y is negative 14y. Oh, forgot my y. Keep my equal sign, and then negative 7 times 30 is negative 210. Then remember I'm adding, and then my x terms will cancel out, and then 16y plus negative 14y is 2y, and then 192 plus negative 210 is negative 18. Divide both sides by 2, I get y equals negative 9, and then I have to solve for my x value, so I'm going to use my top equation, 7x plus 2y equals 24. Remember you can use also the bottom equation. I know I've noticed that I've been using the top equation a lot. And then so wherever I see a y, I'm going to plug in a negative 9. That equals 24, so I have 7x. 2 times negative 9 I know is negative 18. And then some of you guys I see are still writing it like this, but remember adding a negative is the same as subtracting a positive, so just write it as minus 18 equals 24. And then I'll add 18 to both sides. I get 7x equals 42. Divide both sides by 7. And then I'm running out of space here, so x equals 6. So my solution is 6, negative 9. So here is your exit ticket. So solve this system on a separate sheet of paper. So you have the choice based on what you learned in the video. You can either eliminate Y first or eliminate X first. So it's up to you. Solve the exit ticket on a separate sheet of paper and then turn it in to me.